I'm here today with legendary coach Arnie Miehe of Darlington High School. Arnie is a Hall of Fame coach whose teams have won numerous state championships. Arnie, can you talk about your journey into running, beginning in high school, on into college, and then your intro into coaching cross country in high school?
Okay, I didn't know I could run, and when I was in eighth grade, we had a teacher that started a junior high track program, and so I went out for it because then you didn't have to go home and do chores right away. So that was my big motivation, and we ended up doing some running, and he came up to me and he said, "Kid, you can really run," and I had no idea, that I could. So he arranged for me to run against the high school miler, and in practice, and I beat him. And I was, not a very popular kid, and name was Arnie, so there was Arnold Ziffel. The kids used to call me the pig and all that jazz, and then I became Arnie the runner, and that changed me. It just did. I mean, I liked that, and it gave me an identity, something I was successful at. So then when I went to high school, my freshman year, I won the conference, I won the regional, won the sectional, and got ninth in the state meet in the 3200, and then ended up not making it as a sophomore, but as a junior, placed at state. And senior, I got strep throat and made it in the 4x4, but became a runner, I guess. Then in college, I was also a high school football player. We didn't have cross country, so I played high school football, and then played 1 year in college in football, and then because I really didn't enjoy running, it was just something I was good at, and I enjoyed success. But then I got back into running, and then ran in college at UW Platteville. Then I came to Darlington, and I had to coach football for a couple of years, but I fell in love with cross country. And so I wanted to get the cross country job, and finally it opened up, and then I've coached that here for 40 years. So that's kind of my journey there. And it taught me a lot of things. It taught me to teach kids to enjoy running, to take pride in it, and also the other thing that really helped me as a coach was I was a star at one time in high school, but yet in college I was not very good. So I can relate to those kids that aren't very good, and yet you understand the pressures that the kids that are up in front are going through too. So those experiences and having that up and down has, I think, really impacted my coaching and helped me.
You've coached at Darlington, a D3 school, all your whole career on there. What were the big challenges you saw? I mean, just getting the program going and getting it to be a success culture.
That's an interesting question. When you're in Division III school, kids can do any sport. I think if you get in a Division I school, if you're going to be a football player, you got to be a big, tough guy. Where in Division III, anybody is out for football. So trying to get kids to come out for cross country rather than football, where they could play has been, and volleyball the same thing. So in a smaller school, that's a big decision for a lot of kids. So trying to get that going, and and I wanted it to be a popular sport. You always look at sometimes it's the nerd sport, and that was a thing for me too. And I was really fortunate when I first started to get a kid. Troy Cullen was his name, a kid that was a popular kid and a very, very good athlete. He decided to run cross country, and when he did, a bunch of his pals made the switch from football to cross country, and then we had success because he was good and they were fairly good, and then it became a legit sport. But that challenge has never ended as far as trying to recruit kids and to get kids out, because if you don't have the kids, you can't do it. And then we had success after about the first couple of years. My fourth year coaching, we won the state meet, and I thought, we're set now. We got success. Everybody's going to want that. And I found out success wasn't the key. Kids got to see that we have fun, that it's meaningful, that kind of stuff, and that you get popular kids out. So success wasn't necessarily the key for that bit, but the biggest challenge was always just getting kids out and convincing them to come and run, and where they can go to football and get more publicity and more attention and that kind of stuff. So that's been a 40-year never-ending challenge, but it just comes with the territory.
Well, I think fighting that Friday Night Lights glamour is always something, no matter what division. But
I've had kids come up to me and say, "I hear you have fun in cross country. I'd like to give it a try." So I've tried to do that. I tried to make it enjoyable as much as we can. Do some extra stuff, do some things that other sports can't. We can take the cross country crew and we go to a camp. We can go out and run by a lake. The football team has got to practice here. The volleyball team's got to do it. So I tried to look at ways to incorporate that kind of stuff to make it attractive to kids and do stuff. So when kids go home and mom and dad says, "Well, how was practice?" They may have done these intervals, but they'll say, "Hey, but we did this and we did that," and that's what sticks in their mind. And trying to create that kind of atmosphere around our program has helped, and that's what we've tried to do.
you've also, you made your invitational. The Darlington Invitational wasn't a meet; it was an event, and I remember times hearing that you had live radio broadcasts, correct?
Yeah, we do. We've had for about the last 10 years, 10 or 12 years, yeah. And that was something that we dreamed up and see what we could do, and we get some. Well, now that my two sons are out, they do the commentary. We have somebody ride on a Ranger out giving remote broadcasts what's going on when they can't see it, and we've got a lot of behind the scenes things and people listening to it, and we've got about 24 teams now that come to that, and that kind of stuff. Anything we can get to give it attention, to make it a legit sport, not just a bunch of people running, and so anything that I can think of or see or do, we do. We try to. And we do, but along with that, we do our run across Wisconsin for cancer, where we relay from Lake Michigan to the Mississippi River in conjunction with our Relay for Life. And it's something that's really given our cross-country program some positive attention, and it teaches our kids to do stuff for other people too. So there's a lot of life lesson things going on, and yet something that they really look forward to doing, and again, our program gets attention, and people see that and admire that.
Well, that is so cool. Your teams have won 8 boys championships, including 6 in a row, and I know you've had numerous runner-ups in there as well.
Yeah.
You've got one girls state cross championship. You want to talk about those coaching successes? You've had numerous state champions, but most especially your son Tyson, who was a three-time state cross country champion.
Yeah, we ended up winning this state title my 4th year of coaching. So we won it my 4th and 5th year of coaching. And then we didn't make it the next year, and I really struggled with that, and that impacted me as far as I sat down one day and I thought, okay, if the only time you can have success and be satisfied is if you win a state championship, it's going to be a long, miserable career here, because I loved winning it there right away, but then you had that expectation, and I realized there had to be more, and you had to talk about lessons in life, and it really made me think how I approached it, how I talked with the kids, how I dealt with the kids, and that helped me out a lot. And then we had a lull, and then we came back in won, we're runner up 4 years in a row, which was the first year I was really happy. The second year I was praying we got second. The third year we should have won it, and we messed up and got beat. And so it was, and we got second all 4 years. But the whole roller coaster of feelings was pretty interesting. And those kids should have won one in there, and I feel bad for them. And then we had another lull, and then we had a crew come through, and I was just fortunate to have my two sons involved with that, and again, you know, you talk about how you get kids out. I mean, they had friends, and you know, and we built a strong program, and we were tough through there, and then when Tyson was a freshman and Kent was a junior, we were ranked number one, went up there and fell flat in our face, and that was so hard as a dad and as a coach. You know, and everybody's like, oh, that's cool that you coach your kids, and it's pretty special. But when things go well, but when things don't go well, it's a double whammy, because as you and I have talked, there's times, and those are the times when your kids need a dad and a coach, and you know, and so that was tough to get through. But then they came back the next year, and to win the state championship with both boys on the team was, and then to have, you know, one son be the individual state champion was just off the charts. When kids are seniors, before the conference meet, we have a spaghetti supper, and the seniors talk about what cross country's meant to them. And I didn't know about this, but Tyson's senior year, he said to the team that his freshman year, after they got beat, we stayed overnight at a hotel that night, and he said, I woke up at 2:00, and he said, I cried until 4:00. And I sat there as a dad and a coach thinking, here's this 14-year-old kid with the weight of the world on his shoulders in a hotel room away from home, bawling his eyes out for not doing what he thought he should have done. And it really made me think. But I was fortunate. We won, you know, the next 2 years that he was in high school, and he was the individual champion. So things went well, and then we continued. We won those consecutive state titles with about 5 different groups of kids. Because people, well, it's the same group, but no, we always graduated 4, 5, 6 guys off of those teams, and it was just a culture at the time. And obviously we had talent, but it became, you know, they expected that of themselves, and it kept rolling. And so we got lucky, and then it spilled over to the girls' team. One of the interesting times of that whole situation was Tyson's senior year, when the boys won and the girls got second by 2 points and should have won. And we had a girl that just did not run very well, and it cost us big time. And there I was. I had the girls' team on the bus sobbing. I mean, sobbing. We had 5 seniors on the team, and they were absolutely crushed. And the guys' team was outside of the bus, and my son included was the individual state champion. They were state champions, and the girls in the bus were bawling. Where do you go? What do you do? I mean, do you go out and celebrate with your son and your state champions, or you stay in the bus and console it? And that was quite a day. And then when we came back for the reception at school, you know, if you didn't feel bad, you didn't legitimize how the girls felt, and if you didn't feel good, you know, you didn't legitimize what was going on with the guys. And I was just caught with what to say, and I found some stuff, but that was an odd situation for me with that, because I missed out on celebrating with my own kid and my team to help the girls get through what they had to get through. So I've just been so extremely fortunate to have things fall in place, to have good kids come through, to have it click. For every title we won, I know I've screwed up. You know, people may look and go, "Wow, what a deal," but I could point at a lot of situations where I made coaching mistakes, and it cost us, and that bothers me. I have a hard time letting go of that kind of stuff. So, you know, there's been a lot of ups and downs, but yeah, in the whole thing, I've been extremely fortunate to be able to win, and then have my family involved with it too. Been great.
You were also selected National Coach of the Year, and I remember, can I think the WIA director at the time?
Hauser.
Yeah, Deb Hauser.
Yeah.
And she presented that at the clinic, and that had to be such a thrill to you. And I don't think you were even aware that you were receiving it.
No.
You know, and she came out, but that was after your fifth straight or sixth straight?
Fifth.
After
Yeah,
the fifth
fifth.
straight championship. And that has to, I don't think anyone gets into the sport for coaching honors or things, but that has to be something that you're so proud of,
Oh,
and the whole community.
I was, yeah, we were at the clinic, and it was the second day, and she was there, and she said, "Is Arnie Miehe here?" And I'm in the back, way in the back, with Tom Scheller from Racine St. Catharines, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and he's like, "Yeah, could you stand up, please?" And I'm thinking, all right, now what's going on? Because we had, I had won the state thing, and we had sent in the information, hoping for the national thing, and they said that there would be a regional winner. So it was Michigan, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, Ohio, Wisconsin, in the Midwest here. And we had sent it in, the athletic director and I, and heard nothing for months. So I'd go in and I'd say, "You hear anything?" No. And so I said, "Well, no news is bad news," because they definitely would have picked a regional winner by then. And so that was just not even a thought, And then she said, "Could you stand up, please?" And I'm standing there going, "Okay, what's cooking? What did I do?" And then she said, "Congratulations, you've been named the National Coach of the Year." And wow. And for me, it was such a thrill to have it around my peers and all my pals, to have it announced. And then on the way home, two things, because I had to drive 2.5 hours home by myself, two things kept coming back to me over and over and over. One was all the people that had a part in that, all the parents, all the kids, all the miles. You're in charge, kind of, but man, if you don't have willing parents, good parents and good kids, and you can't build anything. I mean, you just can't. And then the other thing that really came back to me is the times that I seriously considered quitting coaching. The times there was 3 big times when I got very discouraged and I was going to quit. And I thought to myself, what I would have missed, if I'd have pulled the plug. And I think we all get to those points in our lives, with our job, with whatever, maybe our marriage. I don't know, where you're at that point of, do you pull the plug or don't you? And it just really struck me that how fortunate I was that I hung in there. Because I wouldn't have, I'd have missed that. And yeah, it was such an incredible honor and a thrill that I'll always remember.
We had a chance to just chat a little bit before we started this interview and talked about some changes and for the better. That what are some of the changes you've seen? I know in particular we talked about state, or the management of meets, especially big meets, of ship timing and some things. You want to address some of those? I know we both could exchange a lot of stories about how doubtful maybe some finishes of some meets were when they were just pancaking, piling into the finish chute, and people falling down, but.
Yeah, I've still got the index cards in a box that you used to hand out the index cards with numbers on them, and then you'd bring them back, and you didn't know how you did. When we won the 85 state meet in the snowstorm, we had no idea. You went in, you handed it in. Now it comes up right away. They can tell you, how far ahead or behind you are after every mile. You can look that up and see that during the race, which is neat. I went through the whole videotape controversy. I was the president of the Coaches Association when there was a big push to have the state meet finish line videotaped. And Karen Kuhn was in charge of WIA at the time, and she absolutely insisted no, because and the reasoning was, and there was some legitimacy to it, if someone challenged you, they could take it to court and you couldn't announce who the state champion was. I mean, that was her concern, that someone would say, "I'm getting a lawyer," because that stuff was going on. So I understood where she was coming from with that, but yet, like we have talked, I mean, there was times when it got backed up at the finish line to the point where kids couldn't even finish. I was at a sectional once. It was the first time the school had hosted the sectional. and they had workers that weren't familiar. They handed out cards at the shoot, at the beginning of the shoot, and somebody took the cards back away at the end of the shoot. So the kids came to our huddle afterwards. Where's your cards? Well, they took them. So they had no idea what place they had at the sectional meet. Luckily, some parent, somebody had a videotape of the thing, and they had to sit down and watch the videotape and put it all together, or I guess they would have had to rerun the sectional meet. So, yeah, there's been a lot of stuff, and it's a lot easier when you run a big meet. Before you had to have all this stuff and collect it and do this stuff. Now, the timing company gives you the score and makes it nice. So we're getting a little complacent. Now it's getting into even dual meets and track. It's like, what? You having, people timing? Get with it. Well, sometimes it doesn't make sense to do it. But, yeah, that has been nice. And for meet management and knowing that's, that who won for sure. You come across with the chip timing, and it's added to the sport, I think. When people can see that. People that can't make it to the meet can stay at home and know exactly what's going on during the meet, and know maybe more than you when we're running around, cheering for our kids. So I think it's been good for the sport without a doubt.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. In my whole career, that's been the earth shaker of all improvements that you have a major role in the cross country coaches Hall of Fame banquet presentations. You're one of the two people that does the introductions. That has been really a class event, and it is recognized so many very deserving coaches. You've got to feel really good about that role that you've had. It's a coaching role because you are a coach. You were selected to do that, but it's really cool that you can have that role to help promote those coaches.
I'm on the Hall of Fame committee, so I get a chance to get in on the selection process, which is interesting. Talking about classy people, and what's been enjoyable about that is going back in the archives and finding guys who are no longer alive that deserve to be recognized. I mean, the guys right now that that have done stuff, it's pretty obvious. But to find guys back in that in the day dominated, and one of the neatest ones was Milwaukee. I think a Milwaukee Lincoln coach, and he coached an all black team, and he was a white guy, and to have his team came back. He's no longer living. His team came back and was together. Was like a reunion at our banquet that night, and that was neat. And I sat with his assistant coach, sat next to me, and he told me stories about the whole civil rights movement and the unrest and Father Grappi and all that stuff going on in Milwaukee, and how they held it together, and how he bonded with these kids that he was coaching when there was so much unrest going on in our country. The stories were incredible. But to be able to honor runners, officials, yourself, your dad, your sister, and then to be able to meet them and introduce them and to talk to people who they've touched, because when I do the introductions, I have to get a hold of people and get some information so you can make it honorable, to introduce them. So that's been very enjoyable for me, and meeting people and putting things together like that has been fun. And then honoring people who deserve to be recognized is enjoyable, very much so.
At this point in your coaching career, you're retired as a teacher, although you told me you still do substitute teaching, and
yeah, I saw a lot.
And but you've been basically a retired teacher, and but full-time coach. But you've got the good fortune to have your son coaching with you, and how rewarding is that experience?
It's nice, and it's interesting to see his perceptions, and you see some of the stuff that was important to you come out of him and has become a part of him, but yet he sees the big picture that you'd like to see coaches have with kids. So it's fun to, I'm his assistant in track now, and so I kind of stay back and watch and to see how he interacts with those kids and has an impact with kids. It's real satisfying. I mean, it's like when you have a job and your kid takes over for you and keeps your company business going or whatever. To see how he does that and to see that he's got this knack with kids is real satisfying for me, because you've got to have that. You've got to be able to connect with kids somehow. Whether you're coaching stuff, that's only maybe a third of being successful and having an impact on kids. But being able to connect with them and then get them through difficult things and get them to run at their top is the key, and he's got that. So yeah, for me it's fun to sit back and watch that. And when he helps me in cross country as my assistant, the double team thing works really well.
Oh, that is so cool. Other things you can think of, your whole family has been runners, and that has to, your two daughters, your two sons, that has to have been so cool. They enjoyed the experiences and the rewards of running cross country and track, and it's the whole family's all in on it.
Right. I've just been extremely lucky, and it starts and ends with my wife. I mean, she was a runner, and she was a very good runner, and she was all in, and she was my first assistant coach, and the support she's given me, there's no way I could do all the extra stuff and be gone and do that stuff. And she digs in and has helped with, making the yearbook and anything that goes on. She's done it. So, without that, there's no way I could have done what I did. And then to have the kids come through and all of them, be interested in running. A lot of times that doesn't happen. And then for them to be successful, in it, and then to the point of, you want your kid to be involved, and then that they're good enough to make the team. That doesn't always happen. And then your team's good enough to be in the mix at the state meet, and then to win it all. It's like I've just been so blessed with that all the way around. But there's no way I could have done it without Ann, my wife, helping me get through all that stuff. And when she pulls me down when I need to be pulled down and lifts me up when I need to be lifted up, and I've had both of those happen. So yeah, I've been really blessed, and I've been very, very, very fortunate to be around the right people, and to have good kids and a good family. So there's so many people. Like I said, when I got the national coach, you realize how many people have had their fingerprints on that, and I've just been part of it.
Well, I can echo with you on that. I think coaches' wives are saints, so
they have to be. Yeah,
we've been blessed to have such understanding wives. Other things you can think of that very memorable to you, anecdotes.
Don't open that door, Mike. I'll go on for 2 hours, but
give us one or two.
And I spoke at the coaches clinic when I got the National Coach of the Year award. I got a letter from a mom, that I coached her son, and her son ran JV, and she talked about the impact I had on her kid. And when I read it, it was like I had this cold feeling go over me, because we're in the middle of winning state championships, and everything was going as good as it could go, and I thought, boy, I'm not forgetting those kids, am I? And it just stopped me, and I read it at the state coaches clinic. In fact, I finished with that, and with the intention of, that's where it's at. If you could win the conference, if you win the sectional, and you're lucky enough to win the state meet, that's really cool. But the bottom line for coaching is to have an impact on a kid's life, and that's where it's at. I mean, you and I talked earlier that's my whole coaching thing. I love, the last runner on our team that you wait around for, and when they get done, how you've changed their life is really neat. And that letter, made me think about that. And I told you I had a 50-year-old guy that I coach come and talk to me this week, saw me and said, you impacted my life with life lessons more so than running. I had a girl that came out I had a gal at a wedding reception once who was a doctor. She's a medical doctor now, and she said, you know what, Coach? She said, I always wanted to be a doctor ever since I was little. She said, but until after my freshman year cross country, I didn't know if I could. But after my freshman year in cross country, I realized I could do anything I put my mind to. And to me, that was one of the best compliments I ever got as a coach. And that's always been what I've tried to do. Obviously, you try to win, you try to beat your opponent. You want to win championships, but the bottom line is have an impact on kids. And that's what's so cool about cross country is everybody does the exact same thing. And you can measure your improvement. All the other stuff is relative. If you wrestle a fish, you're a stud. If you wrestle a stud, you're a fish. But here you can measure it and you can improve, and it's you against you, and that's what life's about. Holding it together when things get tough. So it's a neat thing. It's a great sport, and I've been very, very fortunate to have a part of it.
So cool. Well, on behalf of coaches around the state, we thank you for your contributions to making our sport better, and you've been, just the most excellent coaching model to everyone out there in the whole running community. So I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. This is cool.